when did you come to Harlow and why did you come to Harlow?
I came to Harlow in 1955 when I was 10 years old. And my reason for coming was with my family. My dad worked for Johnson Matthey and they relocated from London to Harlow. So that's how I got here all those years ago.
Okay, so let's take those first 10 years for example. Where in London were you?
I lived in Shepherd's Bush, 153 Beckler Road, in a shared house. The owners were a Mr. and Mrs. Slinger, and they lived upstairs, and we lived downstairs. There was one shared toilet, there was no bathroom, so it was the old galvanised bath in front of the fire. And that was it. That's what we had, and we all shared one bedroom. So there was my mum, dad, me, and a sister who was 7 years younger than me.
So the image you evoke there is very much a post-war thing. That's because you'll say, well, it was post-war.
Yes.
So, and where was your father working at this time?
He was working for Johnson Matthey at that time, yes.
So then you got the choice of coming out to Harlow.
Yes.
And so from 153 to where? Where in Harlow did you move to?
Right, 101 Rycroft. And that was, I suppose, a fascinating process because Johnson Matthey and the Harlow Development Corporation arranged trips for families to go out and have a look at the town and see the type of accommodation. So in order to help the companies recruit their staff to get to Harlow. And I do remember my father saying that he'd been allocated, well, he went to the housing office, was given 2 or 3 sets of keys to go and walk around and choose a house he liked. And he did this in the Potter Street area. And then for some reason he had an absolute change of heart and said, I don't want to live in Potter Street, I want to live in, you know, the Hare Street area, and therefore we finished up in Rycroft, which was wonderful. That was great.
And what are your earliest memories of where you moved to? The particular street, the house, etc.?
The house was, to me, like a palace. It was, you know, we had separate bedrooms. It was a 3-bedroom house, so we, you know, my sister had a bedroom, I had a bedroom. That was brilliant. We had indoor toilet facilities, we actually had a bath. It was just all the things you kind of saw in a movie were now ours. There was an image of a lot of mud around, there was an image of housing estates being built without boards around them, so it was one great adventure playground that you could just gallop through, jump in sand, come back absolutely covered in muck, but it was the biggest adventure playground.
Because that's the type of image which you're saying we've got to get clear in our minds. Again, March 25th, 1947, when Harlow was dedicated, it wasn't built by March, it wasn't built in a day.
No.
Nor, we're going up to 1955, we're still talking about mud and building sites.
Absolutely. I mean, from our landing window, I could look out onto Collins Meadow, and I remember that being built, and it was, you know, they didn't have the security fences, but what they had was the old-fashioned night watchman who lived in a caravan. But he couldn't be everywhere, you know, and stuff was getting nicked because the Development Corporation never built garden paths into the gardens. So dads went out and got a bag of cement, and you know, they were just counterbalancing the shortcomings, I think, you know, putting it nicely.
It's a very nice way of describing criminality. And your school, which school were you at?
I went to Hare Street School, but that was only for a term and a half, and then moved on to Netswell. So, yeah.
Was that a happy time, Netswell School?
I wasn't really ready for it, I don't think. To be quite honest, I never excelled at secondary school. It was only virtually the last ever year that I was there. All of a sudden it all clicked, you know, and that, you know, teachers couldn't teach me. I've got to be willing to learn. And you know, and it was accepting that learning is about your own responsibility. And then things went great after that. But
well, you shared good company. I think I was at Harlow Playhouse last week with Churchill. Pip Upton did a performance of Churchill. I think Churchill's quote is very much that school got in the way of his education.
Yes.
So, you know, and of course Churchill was a former MP for Harlow, of the area, etc. And so you're happy moving here. It felt like a happy time. You know,
those early years were brilliant. Yes, and I've always felt Harlow, for me, is a good place. It was the place where, you know, we came out of not slums, but we came out of poor accommodation. We got good accommodation. I worked in Harlow both for the council and the Development Corporation. At one time worked for the Harlow College, so you know, my roots were very much in Harlow, and there was ever no desire to move out of it. This is my, you know, kind of my town.
And your father, you know, so he didn't have far to go to work either?
No, no, he was one of the people using the cycle tracks and would cycle to work and there and back every day. Didn't learn to drive a car, totally reliant on his bike and getting around the town that way.
You've written down quite a lot there. Is there anything you want to bring out from your notes about your memories here?
Well, I mean, there's lots of little things, like you say, what was the first day? And my mother was a devout Catholic, and the first thing she did, we weren't allowed in the house, first thing she did was to go around each room sprinkling it with holy water and saying a prayer, you know, and that was, and then we could move in. That was, you know, we could bags our rooms at that point, so that was something stuck in my mind.
So what was her church? Which church did she go to? Did she go to church?
Yes, she did. She went originally to Fatima, and then from Fatima, St Thomas More's Church was founded, and that was her church virtually till her dying day. That was, yeah.
And the church was an important part of the community, wasn't it?
Yes, and I mean, when Thomas More's Church was being built, it's not the structure you see now. There was a wooden church built, and the congregation, the parishioners, built that church themselves. You know, they bought in the parts and assembled it. And I remember as a kid, 10 or 11 years old, 12 maybe, up on the roof, you know, helping out laying the felt on the roof.
So yes, that's just a great image, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and there's a set of steps that lead up to the church from the pavement, Hodings Road, and they're called O'Brien's Steps, after the man who built them. He died unfortunately very young, but nonetheless that name has been retained by us oldies anyway. It's
And have you always been interested in the history? You know, lived here since '55. You know,
yeah.
Always been interested in the history of the town.
I have. I mean, I did work outside of the town for 25 years, but I never moved out of the town, and that's because I was working outside, working in London. I missed a lot of things during that period, but I'm now retired, and so I'm trying to catch up on my knowledge again, and yeah, popping into the museum, asking awkward questions.
There's a few of them. And have you found that? I mean, have you found it interesting learning different things about the town?
Yeah, yeah, and finding little things and having conversations. I mean, we were talking about Saturday, and Stan Newman's giving his talk at the museum, and because it was the day the town was designated, I suggested to a quiz team that I belong to that we actually hold a birthday party for Harlow. And 1947, it was exactly the right day, it was on a Saturday, and I did say that what we needed to do was go back to 1947. So you're not going to get any flash food out of me. It's going to be vegetable stew, because there was a meat rationing. If you're going to have meat, it's either going to be spam or corned beef. And then we had David Devine gave a short talk about Harlow. Then we had a 1947 quiz. Then we had our desserts, which was spotted dick with powdered custard, not your instant stuff. So, you know, we tried to recreate it, and then we saw some of the old Pathé News movie reels and stuff like that. But that sparked off memories by other people in the room, you know, like the people from Potter Street. Whatever happened to our traction engine? Where did that go? Or whatever.
And that's a very good question, isn't it? And it's almost like a detective thing.
Yes.
I found that as we're talking here. It is like, and that's a good question, which now you've mentioned it, we're trying to follow up, you know, and that's, yes, it's almost like the dismantling of history, but can we find it again? You know, archaeology isn't just underneath the ground.
No, it moves sideways or it gets dismantled. And going back to that first day, one of the things that I think my mum just wanted us out the way, so she said, go to the shops and get me something, whatever it was. None of us knew where the shops were. We'd just been, you know, been ported, dropped, and so my sister and I was only 3. We staggered off to find the shops, and of course the hatches weren't built at that time. Slacksbury Hatch wasn't built, but there were 4 shops at the back of what is now Slacksbury Hatch, and those 4 shops were in garages. So there were 4 garages, and they were operating as shops. And on the end wall, and I can't remember exactly what the words were now, it was like papers, drinks, cigarettes. And when I spotted that, I knew those were the shops. But those words are still there. 62 years later, it's painted on the wall of the garage. Living history, yeah.
Has it, I guess it's a bit of a trite question, it's changed, hasn't it?
Yes.
It's changed, it's different, or, you know?
Well, I mean, it's changed visually because of right to buy and people being able to personalise their own property. Because in the days when the Development Corporation was in its infancy, you couldn't do anything. You couldn't change the paint on your door, you couldn't change the colour. It had to be as it was architecturally perceived right from the very beginning. So you could look at estates and you think that's how the architect wanted them to be. So there's that huge change of individualism that's gone on around the town by people putting their own mark on property, and that's lost some of the town's image in a way. And I think the town, like every town, goes through its ups and downs. It's parts of it are looking very worn now, but other parts are coming up again. So there's
I'm into the end of my third month in this why people came to Harlow, but it's people that made this town, isn't it?
Yes.
Whether you're talking about Sir Frederick Gibbard, but then you've got to credit a lot of other people,
yes.
whether it's Dame Sylvia Crowe for the Harlow Town Park.
Yes.
Indeed, I was interviewing Donald Anderson, the former leader of the council. It's the people throughout the whole 70-year period, isn't it?
Yes, oh absolutely. I mean, I probably spoke more about the architecture, but it is people running right the way through it. You know, the ability, you can walk through London or boroughs of London, the streets of London, maybe not see anybody you know. Harlow, you walk up to the High or something, you meet people. Look at all the friends here we've got, you know, and it's each group that you go to or belong to, there are people there. And the neighbourhoods were very strong right in the early years. You knew your neighbours. Yeah.
But you've enjoyed writing about the memories and looking back, and you'll continue, and you won't just stop.
Oh no, no, it will continue. It's something one of my sons wanted me to do, and I couldn't like go from year A to year whatever it is, you know. And I've just, as memories come along, I'm just writing them and then slotting them in chronological order. So at the end of the day, there will be my life, Harlow's life.
And indeed, we'll come back in 5 years' time for the 75th and see how you've got.